After the destruction of the Earth's space dock, the rebuilding efforts have gone smoothly, with the iconic station being rebuilt as it was from the outside. Internally, however, the opportunity was taken to overhaul and modernise the style of the base with a new layout. In-game, this change was actually done to the space dock interior, resulting in the design you've now seen throughout the story series, as before the release of the attack by the Undine, the ESD did look completely different. It's been a while since the Alliance formed on Kronos, as things have been progressing nicely with the exploration of the Delta Quadrant, now made accessible by the relocation of the Jenolan Dyson Sphere and some Iconian gates. So now the Federation has a chance to return to the Delta Quadrant in full and resume Starfleet's mandate to explore. Since the USS Voyager's return, Starfleet has been making gradual attempts to tentatively reach out into the Delta Quadrant with deep space missions, beginning to explore its closest edges, just beyond Romulan space. Alongside this, native species from that distant region have been making their way closer to Federation space through a number of means. We've already witnessed Species 847-2 and their use of interdimensional singularities to cross over, and the Borg have obviously been harassing the Alpha and Beta Quadrants for decades, and now the ever-roaming Hirogen were guided to the Beta Quadrant by Empress Sela of the Star Empire during her exile, where she fled from the Federation and Romulan space. Amidst all this burgeoning contact, one ship and one crew is uniquely suited to this mostly unexplored area, that of the USS Voyager. Sub-Commander Cole of the Delta Alliance informs us that our presence has been requested by Admiral Tuvok, who is the Federation spearhead for efforts in the Delta Quadrant and currently there. The USS Armiger accepts the orders and changes course for the Dyson Sphere gateway that will bring us to the Solanae Sphere, and then we can take a second gate to the deep Delta Quadrant, the Jenolan Sphere. As complicated as that sounds, it's still far quicker than the 30 or 40 years that it would take to fly straight there. As we arrive, we are hailed by the USS Voyager.
Welcome to the Jenolan Dyson Sphere. The situation in the Delta Quadrant is continuing to develop. We will need the assistance of all our allies to stay ahead of it.
Thanks for the welcome, Admiral. It's good to see you again. We received the coordinates to beam down and meet with the Starfleet contact as we move into transport. It's kind of disorientating to see the ground in front of me and the horizon under the Armiger, even though this is still above the artificial gravity produced by the sphere, so therefore I think we're still in space and there is no up or down. After we beam down to this sphere's command station, the same hall that was used as the location for the Jenolan summit, Commander Ethan Burgess contacts us.
Hello. Would you have time to look into something for me? Commander Ethan Burgess at your service. I was raised in London, and I didn't give much thought to a career in service until the Breen attack on Earth during the Dominion War. My eyes were open that day. If we weren't safe on Earth, the most protected world in the Federation, we weren't safe anywhere. I joined Starfleet soon after. I was recruited out of the Academy for Starfleet Intelligence, and I've spent my entire career at SI. Wouldn't have it any other way.
We briefly met Burgess before, though didn't get a chance to get to know him.
The Delta Quadrant became a bit of a pet project of mine over the years. I spent hours analyzing Voyager's logs and mission reports and learning all I could about this area of space. There's so much here we need to understand. The Voth, the Undine, the Borg, and they're just the tip of the spear. Now that Starfleet is back here, I want to be at the forefront of learning all we can about the Quadrant and its dangers.
Burgess originally handled a series of Starfleet intelligence missions during the Klingon War that had us uncover a doomsday machine, operated by Bovat. To this end, we were partnered up with an operative called Lieutenant Kyla Van Zyl. Intelligence's presence here suggests a bigger play from Starfleet to gather knowledge for some end, perhaps the looming Iconian threat. But Starfleet's not alone.
Admiral Tuvok has requested that you meet Voyager in the Solaran system. I believe he requires your assistance with a personal issue. While you're there, you should be able to get a briefing on the current state of the Delta Quadrant.
He is also joined by Commander Mina of the Romulan Republic's own intelligence branch. She is a former Tal Shiar operative who worked with them since before the fall of Romulus, and it seems that she was there for the changes instigated by Hakeev, when the Tal Shiar became beholden to the Empress's will, and Mina gradually lost faith in the organisation. It sounds like she voiced her concerns and was reassigned by Hakeev to some distant assignment, where she eventually left for rumours of Datan's new government. She lent her expertise to the Romulan Republic and has been with them ever since. We also have Galera of the Klingon Defence Force. Her rank and position are not disclosed, but she works for Klingon intelligence. As a Bajoran-Klingon mix, she was often shunned in childhood and never at home in either world. She eventually wound up signing on to a colony attempt, but that was derailed because of the Klingon Federation War, so instead she volunteered as a worker to look out for those displaced by the conflict. Eventually, Kamen of Klingon intelligence recruited her, and as the KI has a habit of recruiting those considered outsiders to the Klingon warrior caste. As she put it, if she were a warrior, she'd be on a warship right now, and it's the same for most in the KI. She then goes on to pragmatically point out that now we're in the Delta Quadrant, we're all outsiders. We return to the USS Armiger and leave the safety of the sphere for the seldom trod waters of the Delta Quadrant.
It's been 32 years since Voyager finished its journey.
We thought we had left the Delta Quadrant behind us.
We were wrong.
The gateways to the quadrant are open.
And the choices we made have long-lasting effects. Now, we will help the friends we left behind.
And fight the rising darkness.
Voyager's first trip through the Delta Quadrant was a solitary one.
We must return to set things right.
This time, we must unite to survive.
Setting a course for the Solarian system, we can see that the Federation's progress through the neighbouring space has been slow. This is literally the frontier, no colonies, no starbases yet, just the sphere dropped in the middle of an unexplored location. The only data we have are the fuzzy deep space readings and a thin slice of sensor data collected by the Voyager years ago.
Greetings. Admiral Tuvok is waiting for you in the conference room.
Waiting for us in the transporter room of the Voyager is none other than Van Zyl.
Welcome aboard. And if I may say so, it's good to see you again. Between doomsday devices and the Delta Quadrant, it looks like we get all of the interesting assignments. If you'll come with me, I'll take you to Admiral Tuvok. He wants to see you right away.
Last time we met was a year ago when Mark Hale was just Lieutenant Commander. It's good to see you, Van Zyl. I see Burgess has you assigned here now. Why is that?
It's good to see you too. Someone decided that with our experience with that, borrowed bird of prey, I'm the perfect person to handle joint operations with the Klingons out here in the Delta Quadrant. I even got a promotion, as you can see. What would you like to know?
Well, then in your expert opinion, what's the status of the Delta Quadrant?
Unstable, but not totally out of control. The Borg have suffered setbacks on multiple fronts. They're being pressed hard by the Voth, the Undine, and various liberated elements. The Voth are mostly bottled up in their home space and in the Solanae Dyson sphere. We've established some connections with a few of the locals, such as the Kobali and the Talaxians. Of course, there are still troublemakers out here. The Kazon, the Hirogen, the Malon, and there's a new power player we're very concerned about. Whoever they are, they're picking off systems left and right. Even the Krenim weren't a match for them. We need to find out who they are and what they want.
Sounds precarious. And what is it the Admiral wants with me?
The Admiral is trying to track down Dr. Cooper. He thinks that Cooper is the key to this conflict with the Undine. He hasn't explained why yet, but he says that your assistance is crucial.
But why is the Admiral out here himself, and why bring Voyager? It's an old ship now.
Voyager spent 7 years in the Delta Quadrant, and during that time many of her systems were optimized to deal with the hazards out here. This old girl's still got a few tricks. Besides, Admiral Tuvok specifically brought Voyager out for this mission, and what the Admiral wants, the Admiral gets. This way, please.
Well, it's good to see a familiar face. Any chance for a guided tour?
Sorry we don't have time for a tour, but the Admiral insists he needs to speak with you right away.
Well, maybe there'll be time later then. So the Delta Quadrant's changed a little in the decades since our last visit. The Voth, as we know, have been pressing their advance in the solar sphere in search of advanced technology, but have made few efforts to actually move into the Alpha Quadrant. The Hirogen we already know of. The Malon are likely still dumping their waste wherever they can, but I'm most surprised by the Kazon. They are a nomadic people, but they operated out of the very edges of the Delta Quadrant, almost as far as you could get from the core of the galaxy. To have made it to the Dyson Sphere's position means something far more must have happened. I guess they could have followed the Voyager's course, and with their level of technology they'd have only just made it all the way down here. But... it looks like Kim finally got reassigned. What alarms me more though is the presence of an unknown party that is capable of overthrowing even the Krenim Imperium. Admittedly, details are scarce as we currently are even unsure as to the state of the Imperium when it was overthrown. Starfleet Intelligence's presence here is making more sense by the minute. We are practically flying blind. Commander Van Zyl shows us to the Admiral's office, and we find him out of uniform and in a state of meditation. The ornamentation of the Ready Room has always reflected its occupant, formerly Catherine Janeway, now is the sanctuary of Tuvok, and we can see a Vulcan Idic symbol alongside an open work console. On the shelf in the corner we can see an urn of particles, and I like to think it's sand from Vulcan, so that no matter how far Tuvok strays, he still has a link back to his home. Or maybe that's too nostalgic for a Vulcan. We also have a completed Calto game, a logic puzzle that requires great focus and logical thought to complete. This is important and I'll touch on it again later. And finally on the desk there is still a coffee pot. I like to think that perhaps Janeway's habit might have rubbed off on him.
Greetings. Thank you for coming so promptly. We do not have much time, and I require your assistance. I am still under telepathic assault by the Undine we know as Cooper. He has found some means to greatly increase his psionic power, and I cannot withstand his assault indefinitely. I will need your help to repel Cooper's attack and counter him.
Cooper can still reach you? That Undine's become almost obsessed with Tuvok after spending months manipulating his decisions behind the scenes. The Admiral was able to shake him off before, but to still be weathering the after effects.
What else do you need to know?
Well, what do you need me to do?
I have been able to deflect Cooper's attacks thus far, but I require assistance to repel him and gain any useful information. I propose initiating a Vulcan mind meld through which you will be able to enter my mind and aid me against Cooper.
You want to probe my mind? Aren't Vulcan mind melds, dangerous?
What else do you need to know?
Why me? I'm human, and I don't even have a high Esper rating.
Your prior experiences with Cooper should allow your subconscious mind to hone in on him. An outsider who has never encountered him before would have no such connection and could never hope to find him.
So basically, because I already know him, it's easier for me to recognize him? Alright, Admiral, if you think I can help, then sure, go ahead with the mind meld.
My mind to your mind. Your thoughts to my thoughts.
Okay. This is a Starfleet med bay? It's not the Armigers. Well, if I don't recognise the location, then it's somewhere Mark Hale's never been. So this must be from Tuvok's mind. We must be in Tuvok's memories. There's Omega symbols on every monitor, so are we in the midst of a Omega protocol lockdown? Well, there's no patients or wounded. In fact, sickbay seems to be completely deserted. Let's see if there's a doctor around. Well, there's no one in the office, no one in the lab, and the doors won't open. We can try to lift the Omega Protocol lockout, but apparently only the ship's captain can do such. Our command codes aren't recognised. The manual override won't open the doors either. Let's try something else. Computer, activate the emergency medical hologram.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
Doctor, I seem to be confined to the sickbay. Could you perhaps unlock the doors and let me out? Also, why are you wearing a mobile emitter when you're already within sickbay? It's superfluous, you don't need it.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? First, I need to make sure you're not contagious or suffering from any injuries. This will only take a moment.
Doctor, I woke up on a biobed. I think I'm fine. You can go ahead and open the doors now. Trust me, I'm not a threat to the crew.
Don't be difficult. I'm only doing my job. Engineers and captains, always in a hurry to get out of sickbay.
Yes, I need to leave sickbay right now to find Admiral Tuvok. God, I'd heard that the EMH Mark I had issues with it being stubborn, but this is ridiculous. Open the doors. That's an order.
You're not going anywhere. Doctor's orders.
I seem to have said something to upset him, because then he pulls out a phaser and attacks. Hologram or not, mental projection or not, it hurt, so we dive into the office to avoid the phaser fire. After a brief exchange of fire, the hologram falls to the floor.
Can you hear me? Come speak to me at the desk terminal. The mind meld was successful. Excellent. I am currently trapped in the ready room. For the moment, I will only be able to communicate with you remotely. Cooper is working to subvert my mental defenses, and I must focus my concentration on keeping my mind intact.
So I'll meet you in your ready room then. Also, I think I just shot the EMH.
No. Cooper is trying to erode my emotional control. Symbolically, this means that he must destroy Voyager. To do so, he is attempting to overload the warp core. You must proceed to engineering to stop Cooper from destabilizing the warp core. If he is successful, he will have broken down my mental control systems. Once the core and my mind are protected from Cooper's attacks, then we can take control of this mindscape. Take the pad from the doctor's office. I will use it to communicate with you as you proceed.
Representation or not, I'm wearing a comm badge. We could just use that, right? Why do I need a pad?
Remember, objects have symbolic significance in this mindscape. As an outsider in my mind, your ability to communicate with me directly is limited. Your communicator is part of your mind, and so it cannot interact with me directly while Cooper tries to keep us separated. The pad is part of my mind, so I can use it to bridge the gap between us.
Oh, everything I am at the minute, everything I'm wearing is part of how I perceive myself, so I need to take part of your mind with me to be able to communicate. That makes a weird kind of sense.
Good. Now we will be able to remain in contact. Proceed to engineering.
Righto, pocket Tuvok. And as if our actions have exuded greater control over sickbay, the doors slide open.
Cooper is attempting to subvert my mental defenses by replacing my memories with engrams from his bioship. Until he is expelled, these kinds of incursions will continue. You may see strange items or distortions in your surroundings. Ignore them and proceed as best you can. Remember Kiri Kinthaw's first law of metaphysics. Nothing unreal exists.
Ah, yes. Kiri Kran of metaphysics. I've read it well. Okay. I've never been on an Intrepid class before, let alone the warped memory of one under the command of Species 8472. The corridors, though winding and quite extensive, are full of doors that just simply don't open, so our path is actually rather linear. We eventually find our way to a turbolift, which we can take to the engineering deck.
Cooper is trying to overload the warp core. You must keep it stable.
So engineering looks like it's just down this corridor at the... oh... What?
The MINDSCAPE is a simulacrum. Cooper may move elements to suit his needs, or try to stop you. Certain areas may be blocked or damaged, or even transformed. Do your best to reach your destination. Cooper cannot simultaneously attack an area and conceal it.
Okay. Let's backtrack. We find a new door to engineering has just appeared, so we'll use that. This seems to be on the right track, although the warp core shouldn't be yellow.
What are you doing here?
Who said that? Oh, there's a operations officer over there. Let's go talk to them. Maybe they can help. Your warp core looks like it's running a bit of a fever, Ensign Kim. Could you use a hand?
What are you doing here? This area is very dangerous. The core is unstable.
I can see that. Where's your chief engineer?
Vilana, I don't know. She should be here, but as far as I can tell, everything on Voyager is about to fall apart, and I'm the only one here. Stay back. I'm going to put a force field around the core while I try to stabilize it. It won't contain a core breach, but it might block some of the radiation if the magnetic stabilizers give out.
It's alright, I'm pretty certain I can fix this. Stand aside, Ensign.
I've almost got this. Just keep back. It will only take a few more minutes.
Fine, let's work together.
You are stupid, aren't you? Only people the Vulcan melded with should be here. Not everyone on Voyager is part of Tuvok's warped little subconscious. Some of us are far more exceptional.
Look, I know it took you a long time to get a promotion, Ensign Kim, but...
I'll destroy you, and Tuvok's mind with you.
Oh, wait, no. You're not Ensign Kim, are you? We exchange fire as the core flashes with greater intensity, shifting into a fiery orange as it begins to go critical.
He has raised defenses to protect himself. Use one of the engineering consoles to press your attack.
Being too close to the core when the mind version of Kim erects a force field teleports you back to the entrance. Still, this whole landscape works by association, so to drop a force field, I press buttons like this, and in theory, there we go. Cooper is repurposing Tuvok's imagined allies. What began as an effort of Tuvok's subconscious to save the ship...
He has raised defenses to protect himself. Use one of the engineering consoles to press your attack.
in the form of the ever-industrious Harry Kim, was quickly warped into an effort to expel the intruder by Cooper. After dispatching this corrupted version of Harry Kim, we restabilized the warp core.
Excellent. With my mental defenses stabilized, we should have additional time to fend off Cooper's intrusion. Head to the crew decks. Inside of my memories exist fragments of personalities from any person with whom I have previously experienced a mind meld. You may be able to find someone whose personality is not wholly part of my mind, and thus not susceptible to Cooper's influence.
The peaceful blue glow of the warp core returns to normal. Good, I'd hate to see what the idea of a mental warp core breach would look like. Everything here is based on expectation and experience combined with analogy. The Cooper Undine, however, is altering the parameters of Tuvok's mindscape to its advantage, so our presence is to try to tip the scales back in the Admiral's favour.
Move through the crew decks to your right. You may be able to find a fragment of a personality who can help. People with whom I have previously melded have left impressions of their Katras in my mind. You may be able to convince one to assist you. Because they are not technically me, Cooper's ability to subvert them may be limited.
Alright, so by convincing your mental impression of a person to help you, we're actually providing you with tangible support. Okay then, let's head to the crew quarters. Well, this isn't good. Voyager's immersed in what appears to be fluidic space. In the far corner of the room, curiously staring at what appears to be an ancient gramophone, we can find the help that Tuvok sent us here to locate.
What is happening? What am I doing here? Who are you? I require specifics. Answer me.
You are Tuvok's memory of 7 of 9, and right now he's trapped in the ready room while species 847-2 tried to take over Voyager. Does that make sense?
I have no reason to trust you, but this seems familiar somehow. Why am I in the crew quarters? I should be in my regeneration alcove.
I don't know. This isn't my dream. Pocket Tuvok, you explain it.
7. You are currently experiencing an engrammatic regress as a result of a Vulcan mind meld. You must assist me in reasserting control over the meld. I am currently locked in the ready room next to the bridge. Exercise caution as species 847-2 has subverted the vessel.
With that, the memory Kartra, whatever, of 7 of 9 agrees to help. I wonder if the fact that this is here means that Tuvok likes old classical Earth architecture and books and things. Wouldn't surprise me. However, this...
That is Borg technology. But the presence of the collective will not dissuade us. Assimilation is irrelevant.
Right, yeah. This is his imagination. And this is my imaginary phaser. We see lined up in the alcoves, not drones, but pinned up as if tortured, half assimilated Undine. However, the creatures free themselves and attack. These are nowhere near as powerful as the real-world Undine, thankfully, and were able to dispatch them with merely a few phaser shots.
Assimilated Undine. It may be a reflection of the unconscious fears of species 8417.
Oh, you're here. Let's just get this over with.
The manifestation of Cooper wastes no time in trying to expel us. It seems our intrusion has dampened his mood for games. The close quarters of the Voyager bridge can make for an awkward fight, but there's plenty of opportunities to flank him where he engages 2 combatants. During the battle, I see just how much influence I can exert on this mindscape, and I'm able to beam in reinforcements, though they do drop from the ceiling. Dynamic entry.
I will secure the bridge while you release Tuvok.
Finding Tuvok captive in an Undine prison of some sort, we set him free with our mind phasers.
With Cooper defeated, he should no longer be able to maintain the telepathic link with my mind. For the time being. We must end the mind meld and consider our next course of action. Now that we have removed Cooper's influence, it is time to break the link between he and myself.
A nice touch is that Cal-To puzzle from earlier is collapsed. A literal representation of the strain Tuvok's logical mind is under from Cooper. It's curious to see Tuvok in an old-style uniform. Clearly this is still how he remembers the majority of his time aboard the Voyager, and mostly how he still perceives himself. Quite an emotional attachment to the past you have, but also understandable. The surrounding fades, and we find ourselves once again in the Admiral's ready room.
With Cooper's attack temporarily halted, we are in a position to slow the advance of his Undine forces. Please accompany me to the bridge.
Well, there are no signs of fluidic space now, so that's good. It seems we drove off Cooper's influence. As Tuvok takes his seat, we notice that the crew seem to have changed.
We still do not have a fix on Cooper's whereabouts. I will contact Starfleet for any current information about Undine movements. Use the sensors to check for their quantum signatures. Voyager's sensor array is currently calibrated for tracking Undine movements, so you should be able to garner results quickly.
We find our way to the ops station and attempt to initiate a scan. However, the console locks us out immediately. Let me just check on something. It's important. I'll be right back, Tuvok. Well, either someone really doesn't like Cal-To and smashed it while he wasn't looking, or we're not awake.
You should return to your ship. While I am somewhat fatigued as a result of the mind meld, I believe that I can continue with my duties on Voyager while we plan our next steps.
Tuvok, look around you. The crew are wearing uniforms from your past. The consoles have locked themselves out with the Omega Directive, and the Cal-To puzzle in your room is still broken.
We must still be in the meld. Cooper is trying to deceive us. He needs to break the link cleanly, but lacks the strength to confront us directly.
Alright, so how do we force him out then?
You don't belong here.
Oh, don't make me shoot Kyler. The false crew, as they did before, turn hostile when we try to alter the mindscape.
We should use the link to our advantage. If we can track Cooper through the link, we can then pursue him in the physical realm. Since the mindscape deals in symbolic representations, we need a map to his location. We should proceed to Astrometrics.
Alright then, this is similar to how Tuvok turned the link back on Cooper once before, on ESD after the attack. From there he was able to learn of the true target of Kronos.
Cooper is trying to block your progress. Look for another path.
That console wasn't here before. Well, that's disconcerting. We approach these haggard forms with their empty eye sockets as they plead for help and lash out at us.
In 2375, Voyager encountered a malfunctioning board vinculum that had been turned into a trap by species 6339. This vinculum caused other personalities from the collective to surface in 7 of 9. I entered a mind meld with her in an attempt to stabilize her personality. These people are echoes of the personalities of people assimilated by the Borg. They are not truly aware, knowing only that they desire to escape. It may be helpful to think of them as ghosts, metaphorically speaking, of course.
Those metaphorical ghosts are creepy as shit.
Cooper is attempting to distort your path again. Keep searching.
Really, Cooper? Brick walls? That wasn't there before. And oh great, more assimilated ghost things. I don't suppose this door's gonna work. No? Well, through them we go. Oh, is it just me, or would these things be creepier if they didn't attack?
I sense we are making progress. Keep searching.
The corridors in here are shifting more rapidly. Turns we just took now lead somewhere else, and the ship twists in impossible shapes. Tuvok, please stop thinking about the cold, empty vacuum of space. We dispatch more of these ghosts and finally find the door to Astrometrics. Okay, we apply a security override code and the door doesn't open. Maybe I pressed the wrong button. Let's try again. Usually starship doors have a manual release lever. That's okay. Now I need to charge the flume capacitor. What? We're interrupted by another wave of ghosts, which we'll then have to fend off before we can proceed, but... Okay, 2 secs. D-scale herring. Right. I'm gonna try this door. Nothing? Tuvok, is this your idea of a joke or Cooper's? After exploring around and finding no other way to Astrometrics, I guess it's time we descaled an imaginary herring. And now we need to recouplify the decouplifier. You can tell neither one of us has extensive engineering know-how. Turkey's done. We finally open up Astrometrics and can use the galaxy map to work our way through locations associated with species 8472. First we check to see the Sobras system and learn that this is the location of Tuvok's mind meld with Lon Suda, the Marquis psychopath. This map appears to be a record of Tuvok's mental traumas. Next is a Class 17 nebula from 2373, the date of a mind meld with Janeway to address an engrammatic virus that Tuvok had contracted. This isn't what we're looking for either. Grid 124, Octant 22 Theta. This is the location of a mind meld with 7 of 9. It's not this one either. Necrit Expanse. This file seems a little off. It describes the area as a boundary to Borg space, which is true, but it makes specific mention of an area nearby of singularities used by species 8472. Tuvok, I think we may have found a file that's not yours. As before, the realm fades and we find ourselves in the ready room. I'm just going to check something. Okay, we're good.
This ordeal has taxed me mentally, but I must continue the mission. I have learned that Cooper is in fluidic space, in an area that corresponds to the location known in our dimension as the Northwest Passage. We must travel there and enter fluidic space to confront Cooper once more. He is aboard a special command bioship that he cannot abandon. If we catch him in fluidic space, we can force a final confrontation. Please join me on the bridge. I must focus my concentration on regaining my strength. I need you to enter our destination coordinates and make certain that there are no more surprises.
I see. Even in the MINDSCAPE, I was not a part of Tuvok's dreams, psyche, whatever. When you're asleep, you seldom realise it, and the unusual is often ignored by the dreamer. as an outside observer, I'm more reliable. You know, just in case we're still asleep. No.
Voyager will join you in the Northwest Passage. We'll leave as soon as you've returned to your ship. We need to hurry if we want to catch Cooper.
Right. Pleasure's been all mine. Maybe we can get that tour at the Admiral's discretion. It would be good to get a look at such a historically important starship. So, we have a location from where Cooper's been reaching Tuvok's mind. It's time to set a course and go back into fluidic space and end this Undine's plot once and for all. So I hope you'll be joining me for that mission. Our first day in the Delta Quadrant has been a packed one, and there's plenty more to come. Until next time, I've been Rick, and I hope to see you again for the continuing adventures of Star Trek Online. Thanks again, and goodbye.